Good to see you all this morning. A few announcements as usual to get us started this morning. The first that I want to bring your attention to is that this week, at the end of week 4, you're going to find this extra credit opportunity. And resolve a nature mystery. It's worth one point. Take a photo or make a sketch of something that you're curious about in nature. It might lead you to ask some kind of question. And then you do some research, whether that's internet research or talking to other people, just doing a little survey of what you can find about that, maybe a Google photo search, that kind of thing. And then, or you could use the app called iNaturalist, which is fantastic for getting answers about what things are. We'll be talking about that in a few weeks, iNaturalist. And then you attach the photo or your sketch along with the explanation of what you discovered. And that's due anytime between now and the Friday before Thanksgiving. So you can submit that to your TA, just hand in that page. It's a front and back page there at the end of week 4. I think it's page 39 and 40 in your journal. And so that's an opportunity for you. 1 point extra credit. You also have this extra credit. Well, that's funny. It didn't look like that on mine. Extra credit movie, Wednesday, September. It's actually the 14th, coming up this week on Wednesday. It's at 7 o'clock in 106 Osmond. So you might want to jot that down. 106, since you can't see it. 106 Osmond, 7 o'clock, first extra credit movie. You'll meet Elsie, learning coordinator Izzy there, and she'll sign you in and then lead a conversation afterward. It might lead you to look at Moana in a different way through more of the lens of what we've been talking about here in class. So that's coming up. And then this is a big week. This is a super fun, oh, look at that, there it is. This is a super fun week. It's the week of the field trip. So on Sunday, you should have the time of your group's departure from your TA. You'll be meeting at the creamery, at the bus stop right next to the creamery. You'll get picked up there. They will drive you out to Stone Valley Recreation Area. We'll take a hike for a few hours, and then the bus will bring you back to that same spot. So that's coming up this week. That means that there's no regularly scheduled lab on Thursday or Friday this week because of the field trip. So this is a super fun opportunity. It shows you a new place, gives you a chance to get off of campus. Obviously, it's my bias that I do feel relatively strongly that it's a fun experience. And so I'm looking forward to seeing all of you and having you out there for that. So with that, here's where we were. This is where we left off on Wednesday. This was your pack-back question last week. And I was nearly brought to tears by some of your answers. When do you feel awe? Some really beautiful things that you're writing there. And the way that you're responding to each other, quite lovely. And so thank you for the energy that you're putting into that. Thank you for bringing your gifts into the world, seeing with new eyes, thinking about these questions. So the overarching feeling of reverence and amazement, admiration, fear, produced by something absolutely amazing, sublime and grand, so awe. So thank you. Thank you very much for that. And so this is where we are today with this topic of home. And as our centering this morning, I want to share with you a story. So when I was a kid, on Sundays, my family, my little brother, my mom and dad, my grandma and grandpa, and we would all squish into the car together, and we would drive. We call them Sunday hot dog rides. And so we would drive. I grew up in the north central part of Pennsylvania, almost on the New York state border, 2 hours straight north of here. And there's not a lot there except trees and woods. And so we would all hop into the car, and then either my dad or my grandpa would start driving. And we would take these back roads, these back curvy roads through the woods, And there were times, I can remember one time so clearly it was starting to get dark, and we were still in the middle of nothing, and I was freaked out. I got really scared. I really didn't understand where we were. My dad kept saying, yeah, I think there's a left turn right up here. And I can remember crying. I was so afraid that we weren't going to get anywhere. We were going to have to sleep out there. Of course, that didn't happen. We ended up at some hot dog stand where we order our root beer floats and our French fries and our hot dogs, and then sit together as a family and eat, and then we make our way home. And so I learned to trust, that these curvy, windy roads were going to lead to something okay. And I was with people that I could trust. And so I found that this analogy might be a little bit what some of you might be feeling at this point in the class. Like, why are we talking about dualism? Why are we talking about our stories, our backstories, our beliefs? I really ask that you trust that we're going someplace good on this adventure, okay? Just like I had to trust my dad and my grandpa on those back curvy roads. Sometimes the curvy road is the most interesting way to get to a destination. And so I ask that you trust me and trust your TAs that we're going somewhere and that we're taking you someplace good with us. So thanks. And if you have any questions about that, please don't hesitate to reach out and ask me. So a lot of what I was thinking about with that story was how that place in Pennsylvania is very much my home now. When I drive back to visit my folks, I drive some of those curvy, windy roads, and it feels very much like I'm going home, this concept of home. So that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today. What does home mean? The definition of home, as I looked it up in the Webster's Dictionary, says this: a house, apartment, or other shelter that is the usual residence of a person, family, or household, or the place in which you keep your stuff, your domestic affections, where you keep your stuff. So it's the shelter, and it's where you have your stuff. This doesn't get at what home means to me. That whole idea that make a house a home. What about that saying? So what more is there to this concept of home? So in this room right now, there's right around 500 people. And I want to acknowledge that some of us grew up in homes that felt pretty great. And I also want to say that there are probably some of us in this room that grew up in homes that were outright terrible. We came from different places with different stories. And yet all of us, I think, carry a concept, some connotations, I'll say. Like, what does that word feel, not just what does it mean, the connotations of the word home. So I want to be able to hear from you about what our experiences are and what our feelings are. Like, what is home? So we're going to get into it this way. And Elizabeth's going to help us on the computer here. So what should a home offer? Are the microphones out someplace? Excellent. Thank you, Doug. And is there another one out someplace? Yes. Great. So what should a home offer? Thank you.
I think a home should offer comfort.
Sweet. I agree. Yes. Thank you.
I was going to say that home should be a safe space.
Safe. Yep. Thank you. Agree. There's one to your that way, whatever that is for you. You're right there, Doug. Up a little bit. Ish has it. Oh, there's one right there too. Great. What else?
Home should support you, and you should feel loved.
Feel loved and feel support. Sweet. Okay.
Home should be the familiar.
What a nice word. Yes, I agree. Beautiful. Yes.
I was going to say recognizable, but familiar is basically the same thing. So
Okay. What do you mean by recognize? Can you dig a little deeper for me in there?
something that
What's the feeling that recognizable might bring?
I think something that you can correlate with, something that's not unknown, something that is like holds a special place in your heart,
Yeah.
where you can feel at peace
Ooh.
from like the outside world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for digging with that. Yeah, it's a place where you mesh, right? Kind of. Yeah.
Like acceptance for who you are as a person.
Sweet. It's a good feeling. Yeah. Okay. Others? Okay. Oh, great. Down here, if you would, please, Gracie. Keep coming on down, almost to the front.
Home should be like where your family and friends are.
Yeah, connections. Cool. All right. So what should a home offer? That feels good. And then can you just move to the next slide for me, Elizabeth? Thank you. So what does a home require to offer those things? Like, how do those things really come about?
I think communication with your loved ones is one of the most important things.
Communication. Yep. Awesome. Exclamation point, exclamation point. Yes. What else? Yes, Maddie.
Compassion.
Ooh, sweet. Yeah.
Like family and friends.
Yeah. What do they need to do, Ryan, for you?
They have to be like special in your life, and they have to matter to you.
They have to matter. So it's like a two-way street, right? You're caring about them, and they're caring about you back, right? So, yeah. Thank you.
I'd probably say like stability.
Ooh, stability. Yep. Others? There's another one back there, Gracie, if you would, please.
I would say good home cooking.
Good home cooking. That's always good. It's funny, and I realize, but it's triggering that vagus nerve, right? That you get good food in your belly, and it makes your whole body feel good and healthy. So it's like nourishment in a deeper way, even. So I completely agree. I love going home for that. Yes.
A home requires trust.
Trust. Yep. Anything else to add to our list? Yeah, Doug. Great.
Mutual understanding.
Yep. Sweet. All right. That's a pretty beautiful list. I love it. Ooh, good. One more.
Love.
Love. And how does that get displayed or shown, or what do you...
I think in a home it's done a lot through actions, words, and it depends on the person, I think, because everyone shows love in a different way.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's physical, sometimes it's emotional, sometimes it's everything at once. And I think you just need some form of it.
Yeah. We all do. We're human, and that's part of our wiring. That's really lovely. All right. Thank you for all of that. We're going to come back to this in a little bit. So, so I'm here to suggest, you can just go back to the slideshow part. I think I got it from here. Thank you. So I'm here to suggest today, on Wednesday we talked about our origins. I'm here to suggest that we can broaden what we think of as home. You know, home, the place where I grew up, is definitely home for me, but I have come to find that it means a few other things too. And by talking to other students, it's even gotten more and more broad, which I think is really beautiful. So I'm here to suggest that thinking about our universe, our cosmos, our planet as home is one possible way to expand that. Would you show that video for me, please?
I am home. I give you comfort. I shelter your family. See me for who I am. Home, sweet home. I am your refuge. I am the floor that supports you. The foundation that keeps you steady. The walls that give you shelter. The roof that protects you. I am your home. If you don't take care of me, I cannot take care of you.
So now let's go back and see, how do our words fit if we're expanding our way of thinking to this? So what should a home offer? Comfort and safe space, support and love, something that's familiar, being at ease, a place where you're accepted, and connections with loved ones. Okay, so that was our list. What should a home offer? And then what does a home require to offer those things? Communication, compassion, those loved ones, stability, reciprocation, the give and take, taking care of each other, good cooking and nourishment, and trust and mutual understanding and love. So can you stretch it? Can you stretch what you came into this room this morning with as your concept of home? Can you stretch it to include or see that Earth is home? Take a moment and talk to your partner about this. See how this is landing for you. Okay. So what's coming up? Any comments or thoughts?
So we discussed how like I'm trying to expand that a little bit, but I feel like it's more like my home state, like my hometown, like even though it's not actually like where I live. Like if I'm passing by like the stores that I always go to, like those trees that I always pass by, like I consider that home.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm not expanding like to the whole world yet, because if I flew to like Europe, I really, to be honest, at least at first wouldn't really consider that home yet. But like as soon as I get back to New Jersey, like I consider that my home.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, it takes time and life experience, and yeah, thank you. Other thoughts? I realize I've just thrown this on you, so, I've been processing it for a long time. Go ahead.
I feel like a lot about making Earth your home is having empathy for all the other creatures and humans that live around you.
Mm-hmm.
So just having a mutual understanding with everybody is how like we're all gonna live and make this Earth our home.
Thank you. Yeah. Do you have something? Yeah, sure. No, go ahead. I'll get to you in just a minute in the back.
Oh, me? Okay. I was going to say, I feel like also yourself can be your home.
Ooh.
And so I feel like you have to have like all of these things for yourself before you can like trust it in other people. So like you have to have love for yourself, trust for yourself, stability with yourself, because it's like you're the only one who's going to be going to all these different places with you. So if you never have that for yourself, you can never like trust other places or people to make you feel that way.
We're going to get there. I promise I didn't give her the lecture notes before all of you, but we're getting right there. Yes.
I said compassion, so I was trying to think how nature was compassionate with me. And I think of the times that I'm outside and the sun feels so good on my skin and I feel like I'm in the right place, or I feel compassion when I can lay in the grass and it's maybe a little wet from dew, and it's just like those feelings that I feel, I think, are compassion that the earth shows me.
Thank you. I like that. Yeah. Any other thoughts out there? I would add something to our list here, the things that we require. And I don't know that I fully comprehended this until I owned my own home here in the State College area. The things that I have to do to make sure that my house is a home, for my 3 sons, is that it takes a lot of hard work. It takes being really attentive to things. If the plumbing is down, or if the ants are invading, or if there are all kinds of things, washing the dishes and making sure that I'm attentive, it takes work. And I think that that's something that what your brains are doing right now, I'm guessing, is to sort of wrap your mind around this idea. And then also putting it into practice. If there's a day I just don't choose to do the dishes, then the next day it's going to be double work. So it takes energy to do these things, to make sure that we have that support. So ways that we can bring ourselves around this, the words that we use affect our connections. So even when we say we live on Earth, yes, we live on Earth, but I also live in Earth. I love this picture. I took this as I was driving across Route 45 one day, and really just coming to see and understand the atmosphere that is around our Earth. We are spinning easterly direction at 1,000 miles per hour right now, and we would never think about that, right? The atmosphere helps to protect us. So the Earth is up there too. It's about 60 miles thick. I could hop into my car and literally within an hour, if I could drive straight up, I would drive out of the atmosphere. It's 60 miles that's protecting us. And the gravity is holding those two things together, the Earth and the atmosphere. So it's that eros, it's that connection, the attraction that's holding us all here. So in earth versus on earth is an interesting, we just don't ever say, I live in earth. That just sounds silly. Except that we do. We live inside this protective atmosphere. Another little word that makes the difference, this is a sign from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Little words make a difference. Land of many uses. What other word could we put in there that could convey so much more than the fact that we're just using this land? Like, we've got the right to just use this. So what other word? Yeah, just you can yell it out. Land of all uses. Yeah. So we get everything from it. I like that. Land of what? How else could you change it? Yes. Land of many resources. So sometimes we think about resources also as things that we take. You know, water's a resource. But resources are just everything, right? This building is a resource. We're using it right now as a classroom. Those trees in the background, resources. That would be another way. What other way? Yeah, another suggestion? Go ahead. Yep. Home of many uses. I like that. All kinds of ways we could switch this up. Yeah.
Land of many experiences.
Ooh, land of many experiences. There's so much more than just what we're using, right? Land of many beings, home of many beings. So when we choose these words to be really intentional about how we phrase them, it gives us a shift in our perception of what's going on, right? Our shift in perception, the unity that we have with Earth, our culture and our language, it makes our experience. Words affect our relationships, and those words can build or fracture relationships. So just being conscious, being observant about these sorts of things. The natural world is the larger sacred community to which we belong. To be alienated from this community is to become destitute in all that makes us human. To damage this community is to diminish our own existence. We are part of the whole thing. Thomas Berry, philosopher, writer. So being conscious in those choices that we have to make. So I'd like to share a little natural history snippet with you about one of my absolute favorite creatures on this planet. This is the eastern box turtle. And at Shavers Creek, I got to teach with box turtles for many years. So box turtles are pretty unique in their life history. So they live out in the forest. They can live to be 100, 120 years old, something like that. And they eat berries, they'll eat mushrooms, they eat the May-apples off of the plants, that grow in the spring. So they're just out foraging. They eat bugs. They only have somewhere between 3 and 8 eggs, and they only have those eggs when they happen to run into, this looks like a male box turtle, they only mate when they happen to pass by each other, right? And then the female can store the sperm for up to 2 years before she chooses to put it into use and lay her eggs. And then they have 3 to 8 eggs, and those baby turtles hatch out, and they're about the size of a quarter. There's nobody there to take care of them. The mom has already wandered away, and so they're just out there in the forest. They do have a pretty protective shell. You can see it's pretty significant, covers most of their body. They're called a box turtle because they have a hinge on the bottom that they can go inside and close that muscular hinge. So they do have pretty good protection. At this time of year, the box turtles are going in to find their places where they're going to bromate. They don't technically hibernate, but they go into places where they're going to spend most of the winter. So these cool nights are encouraging them to find those spots. So box turtles are really in trouble right now because of their very low breeding rate, their very low number of eggs. They can't even mate until they're about 15, and so they are struggling. The home range of a box turtle, the area needed by a female box turtle for that entire 120 years or whatever, is about 15 football fields. So it's a pretty small space, relatively speaking. And in that space, box turtles will know where to find things. They know where the berries are going to be. They know where to get water. They know where the best slugs are on which log. They know their home range. The male box turtles only need about 3 football fields. And again, maybe overlaps with a female box turtle, maybe not. Just for comparison's sake, the size of Old Main Lawn is about right in between those two. So box turtles, and thinking about the home range of species like this. Food gathering, mating, laying eggs, sleeping. So they have a home range like this because then they know what their space is. They know where to get stuff, right? So think about your home range. You mentioned it when you said, when I pull into my town and I see the stores that I know, I see the trees that I recognize, then I know I'm home. It's your home range. And then Penn State becomes part of your home range, maybe off campus or on campus, depending on you and your mobility. So home range is where we get the things that we need, and then also we do that support, like what we talked about before. So how did our ancestors come to find their home range? We might be more indebted to birds than we actually acknowledge. There's a guy called Gordon Hempton, is his name. He is a sound tracker. So he is recording sounds from all over the world and paying attention how sound changes home ranges. And he has realized this. He says, hearing is vital for all animals' survival, but what we are listening to is even more important. He says, I was curious about the human range of sound, what hertz we are listening to. So we listen to the very low frequencies of 20 hertz, and then we can hear up to the very high frequencies of 20 kilohertz. But we aren't actually sensitive to all of those frequencies. There's a narrow bandwidth of about 2.5 to 5 kilohertz, where our hearing is super sensitive. So he thought, well, maybe that's the frequency that we're talking to each other, the frequency that we're using to communicate. No, human sensitivity to hearing is not about our voices. What happens in that narrow bandwidth of super hearing is bird song. That's where bird song happens. And so it's a perfect match. Why? Why would it have come to be that way? Why would our ancestors need to have heard bird song more than anything else? It's because that's how they found their home ranges. So if you can hear certain birds singing on the next ridge over, then that's going to be a good place to settle. It's going to have water, it's going to have food, it's going to have shelter, because the birds have already found it. So we are super sensitive to bird song because that's an indicator of a habitat that's prosperous for humans. We are more in tune with what's going on around us than we actually realize in our lives today. So how about, can you get it to go? Yes! How about your relationship with dirt? Does anybody in here have a relationship with dirt? Any stories? about dirt? Nobody wants to talk about their relationship with dirt? Oh, there's somebody. Yeah.
This isn't exactly dirt, but when I was younger, I went to this summer camp, and every year they had like these clay pits, and we'd all spend like a day down in the clay pits, and there'd be like slides and everything, and I just remember it being so fun.
Oh, that's totally dirt. That's great. I mean, clay, just a different variety of dirt. Yeah, thank you. Awesome. Other connections, stories about dirt?
So when I was like really, really small, my mom always used to go to camping a lot, and I went to camping was like half-a-year-old me, and I was eating dirt, and my mom took a picture of that, and now it's her favorite picture of little me.
Absolutely.
Just me eating dirt. Anyway.
You eating dirt. I have pictures like that of my kids too, and they do rank up there as some of my favorites. I can relate to that. Dirt. Any other stories, connections? Thank you for those.
In elementary school, we would fight over the swings, and if I never got a swing, I would go to the tree and dig for worms.
Nice.
And me and my friends would sit around the tree and with sticks and dig till there was disgusting worms that came out of the ground.
Those disgusting worms. We'll get to them in a future class. Yes, but yeah.
When I was a kid, I always used to like dig holes in the woods, and I thought it was the most fun thing in the world. But my niece just turned 1, and she absolutely hates being dirty. So like she like squirms whenever she gets a little bit of peanut butter on her hands or anything. And I think like we are the polar opposites, but also the same person. So it's really funny.
That's awesome. You may have to do a little coaching. I appreciate your story. It's good. So relationship with dirt, we all have it. It's another one of those things that is pretty innate in us that we don't think about too much. How often do you walk barefoot outside? If you think about our human history, it's what people before us did for generation after generation, spending time barefoot on the land, right? Touching earth, walking, sitting before this, thing of chairs, people just sat or squatted on the ground, sleeping on the earth. So earth has an energy field, and we are very clearly adapted to that energy field. So earth, as we walk on it, sit on it, lay on it, it's giving off these free electrons. Our body absorbs those free electrons. It's Earth's energy coming up into us. Our bodies are electrically conductive, right? So those free electrons come up through our bodies, through our skin, and our bodies contain these charged ions dissolved in our blood and in our body fluids, and we feel better when we discharge that. So the free electrons, physics and chemistry was never really my thing. I tried, but it's not my thing. But what I do understand is this balance of letting the negative go and picking up the positive from the earth. Creates a balance. It helps us to be more balanced in our bodies. Every part of our human body can equilibrate like this with the potential, the electric potential of Earth. And so now we are separate from that. We're separate from that. We wear these rubber-soled shoes. We sit on chairs. We spend a lot more time inside. I sleep on a mattress that has who knows what in it, So what happens when we spend time walking barefoot? Or what happens when we spend time laying in the yard to do homework, is that our bodies are getting more of what we need. We're becoming more balanced, this electric balance. So we all have this connection to dirt, whether we acknowledge it or know it. So you need to work on your niece. She needs to get out and get dirty. She needs to sit on the ground. And so do we. I found that during COVID, when I would be so stressed about, teaching online and balancing and blah, 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 all this stuff, being at home all the time, and even now, I'll share with you that even now, after I teach and stand up here, sometimes this isn't my comfort zone, and I get all wound up inside, and then I can go outside and lay flat in the grass, like Maddie was talking about, feeling the dew on the grass. And something happens. I become a little bit more balanced, and I have to believe that it's this. There's a verb for this. It's called earthing. So when you have that field, you're all charged up, laying on the ground might help you. Spend a little time earthing. It's part of being who we are and celebrating ourselves as home. I want to look at this compass as a little bit more. She mentioned earth as home, ourselves as home. So let's look at what that means to be a little bit more at home in ourselves. And to do that, we're going to use this compass. We're going to come back to this later in the semester too. So if we think about, this is the work of Bill Plotkin. He's an author, philosopher. And so thinking about our north side as decisive and organized, competent, purposeful, controlled, normal, conforming, this is what we spend a lot of time doing in our culture right now, is being in the north. So then the east is the questioning and the awakening and the exploring, which is what I hope we're doing a little bit more of in here, doing some of that. The south, relaxed, spontaneous, playful, sensuous, flowing, open, being creative and connecting. That's the south part of us. And then the west is the discovery and the transformation, the soulful parts of us, the peaceful parts of us. So when we're at home in ourselves, we're sort of celebrating, or I think of it as celebrating all of these parts, acknowledging that we have all of these different sides, right? It can be like, okay, got to go to class, got to get lunch, got to, just being in the north, it's almost like putting your head down and just moving through stuff. Oh, got to set up that job interview. My parents want me to do this, blah, blah, blah. So being in the north is where we spend a lot of time. And so here I am to propose that in order to be more at home in ourselves, how can we honor these other directions? So that's kind of just the tip of the iceberg of this. I also believe that this is why the definition of home in the dictionary is so boring, because dictionaries are very north, right? For them to put in all of what we described home, how we defined home, that would be kind of south. And that would be just too playful, that would be too fun, that would be pushing too many boundaries. So what happens when we find our own balance with our definition of home? The definition of ourselves as home, the definition of that place that we love as home, and the definition of earth as home. Because really the universe is within us. We are a part of the universe, and that is our home. So with that in mind, here's your pack-back question for this week. This was the statement at the end. You can always find the pack-back questions in Canvas under Pages. So if you don't get it written down here, you can look for it there. And I hope that you have an absolutely beautiful day.